Hey guys, this is Peyton Jones. You see the New Breed logo? Always been proud of that. I'm going to talk to you about the Jump School video series and why we made it. And I'm going to walk you through. There's a lot of things that happened during this. And film was made by Andy Tuvey, and that tagline about jumping out of an airplane, that's always been how I think of church planning. There's Mr. Sexy right there. It's funny, you know, you look at yourself. We filmed this like 4 years ago when I'm doing this, and I adopted another baby since then. And man, my fitness is not what it used to be, but man, I was fitter then, and I thought I was out of shape. So that's the benefit of making things like this. Now, this title sequence was done by Andy Tuvey. It's meant to look like old documents and, you know, kind of like the GI story, writing from home. So he kind of did that. He had these tracks made, so that was kind of cool. That is Wales. The whole thing was filmed in Wales. There's cars in that scene. That always bothered me. But one of the things I had to let go. Lots of sheep there. You can see a little bit of sheep. If you see a white speck, that's a sheep in that shot. Now, this is filmed in an old abandoned coal mine. Now, if you look, you can see that's a coal tram behind me. This place was just abandoned. There's like huge power tools, boring machines. It was so cold on this day. You see my nose a little bit red, and we were freezing, and it was March. Most of the guys in this are church planners. They're guys who were a part of Acts 29. Many of them were recruited for an Acts 29 video. We made this. We inspired a prototype to be made for one of Di Hankey's books called The Hardcore. And he was a co-founder of New Breed. And Andy Tuvey was one of our church planners, our director. He just won a BAFTA. That's a track going up to a mine. Wales is filled with mines. If you buy a house there, you will most likely need a mine inspection. Make sure there's not an abandoned mine on your property. So when you're selling a house, you gotta get a mine inspection, because your house can fall in a hole. So these guys are out there, they're stomping around. Somewhere my Doc Martens are on someone's feet, because we flew out. We had moved back, and this is about a year after we got back, and we flew back, and I took my Docs. I bought so much stuff over there, baby clothes. Baby clothes are made so good there. I know it has nothing to do with the movie, but I left my Doc there.
Spurgeon said, if you want to go into ministry, there are only two things you need: a love for Christ and a love for the lost. A couple hundred years later, I don't think.
Now, this is the first session we filmed, and funny enough, I'm so jet lagged in these. I got off the plane. I think we slept for 2 days straight in Amsterdam. We had stopped off in Holland a few days before, and we were just, I don't know what that trip did to us, but we were so rough. And then on the way to Wales, we didn't get much sleep. We got detained, and man, I was so jet lagged here. You'll see in other episodes I've got a bit more of a spark, but I'm literally fighting gravity on this one. We'd be walking around, I'd be studying my notes, and Andy'd be getting odd shots. The wind was blowing so hard. That was a big piece of corrugated tin that was getting blown in the wind, and my nose was dripping snot like crazy in between shots there. And what would happen is we'd stop filming, and it would just, within like minutes, man, I'd just be a mess, and I'd have to clean up, because it was just so cold. You can't see cold on film. But I remember that would be one of the coldest days of my life. I'm sure I got sick off that.
Built the Tower of Babel, and God had to scatter it. The book of Acts wasn't much different.
See, you guys can't tell probably, but I can tell. I'm struggling mentally. I always struggle mentally, but I'm really struggling mentally there.
The Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul, before he's even
Oh, by the way, on this voiceover, it's really funny because Pete Mitchell was a guy who helped me raise the funds. This film costs about 20 grand. There's Tuvi right there on the right coming up. The skinny dude. That's a director. He won a BAFTA. It's like the British equivalent of an Oscars. They raided a stash of sex trafficking. It wasn't videos, sorry. They raided a sex trafficking ring, and they got millions of dollars, and they poured that back into raising public awareness with kids in school about sex trafficking, and just help them avoid it, hopefully. And what happened was he won a BAFTA for those films. So
don't build upwards. It was the same mandate in the New Testament. And Jesus has a way of scattering us. In fact,
the industry died overnight in Wales, and that's accounted for 60 to 70% unemployment rates in certain communities.
As we continue to gather in more money,
that's
more building spaces, it doesn't seem to make the slightest bit of difference.
That's a conveyor belt pulling up or dropping slag off in a pit.
In America, 14 out of the 15 churches that grew in the last
that was a beautiful
decade
shot.
did so merely by transfer growth. That means Christians left one church simply to go to another, presumably larger church. That means that we've only been shuffling Christians around. Many people don't realize that
I remember
America
getting the pictures from these dramatic reenactments. He recruited these guys, and like I said, most of them were church planners, and they were just willing. Some of them were guys that Andy had worked with before, like the main guy, he, right there, pictured, he had done some work for Andy on another film. I know he'd done the prototype for Jump School, which I think turned out to be our bonus episode, episode 7. Our prototype wasn't going to appear. We just took one session and made it out of dice footage, but he was prototyping for Jump School.
In America, we're not
Andy, who won that BAFTA, actually attributes Jump School to causing him to have to raise the bar a bit in his own skills and abilities and helping him win the BAFTA. So he said without Jump School as a stop-off point, he probably would not have won it. And I have a train that runs by my house. If you listen to the podcast, Church Planner Podcast or Hardcore Church Planner, you know that train. And of course, I'm sitting at my desk. It's getting ready to roll by.
A great statistic that I want to point to and leave you with is that church plants are 85% more likely to reach the lost than an established church. In other words, church planting is God's means by rapidly deploying his people to take the gospel to the ends of the earth.
I believe that.
Why church plant? That's why.
If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be doing this. Guys, thanks for joining me for this first session, and we'll see you in the second.
To go deeper into the discussion, pick up the Jump School Small Group Study Guide. It contains summaries, deeper insights, and discussion questions, and will help make sure your team is on the same page. To get your copy, visit jumpschool.training. Jump School was made possible by the Ministry of New Breed Church Planting. If you'd like to support the production of more training materials like this one, visit newbreednetwork.com and sign up to give monthly.